Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. And I don't know if Japan is my favorite country, but if it's not, it's certainly in the top one. Uh, I'm a German, Polish American, but my experiences with Japan over a couple decades and also the opportunity to live there has me having a great appreciation for the culture and the people and just boy, if there was any place I could choose to live, it would definitely be in Japan. And we're going to talk not only about how great it is from that perspective, but also be talking about business opportunities today. So you've come to the right place if you're either doing business in Japan or you've considered doing business. We're going to be talking about opportunities, including the expansion of Global Chamber in Japan from the Tokyo chapter to adding another 10 to 12 chapters over the next 6 months. And the person who's leading that effort and the planning for that and has jumped into this 2 feet in and really appreciate Alexandra's effort is Alexandra Scott. She's actually a student at Pomona College doing international studies with a Japanese emphasis. And the story I like to tell about Alexandra is she, on her first day, we had a conversation about, kind of taking the next steps. And one of the people I think that's going to be here is a group called Global Republic on Clubhouse. And I mentioned about Global Republic and how I thought partnering and collaborating with them made a lot of sense and some of the history. And I asked her kind of almost indirectly, how about a call sometime? And I happened to call them while after I finished, and they picked up. And we're already in a conversation. So on her first day, she handled herself very deftly, and she's been doing that ever since. She's going to kick things off with an overview of Japan, about 10-minute, maybe as much as 15 minutes overview of the business situation and what some of the opportunities are regionally. And then we're going to go to Catherine O'Connell to give her reaction and also any comments that she has, and also Jason Ball. And we're going to go around the room. We've got 5 to 7 other people identified who we'd love to hear from. And then we'll have time at the end for questions and comments. So please feel free to raise your hand to make sure that we see you and you're able to chat. So Alexandra, thank you so much for pulling this all together today and all the work that you've been doing at Global Chamber. Would you like to kick things off, please?
Absolutely. So thank you, Doug, so much for that wonderful introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexandra Scott. And as Doug mentioned, I'm serving as a Global Chamber intern with an emphasis in Japan and really trying to expand our efforts in the country. So I'm just going to be sharing my screen and I'll give a quick presentation. So one moment. All right. Okay. So can everybody see my screen? Are we looking good? Great. Okay, so
we're seeing it, but it's a little bit off the camera.
Oh, okay.
So we're there. There we go. Perfect.
That better? Okay.
Yep,
great.
Perfect.
So as I mentioned, my name is Alexandra Scott, and I will be sharing some economic and geographical information about Japan and its various cities today. So I wanted to kick things off with a few statistics on Japan. So Japan has a population of 125.8 million people, and it has a market capita of 5.6 trillion US dollars, meaning that it makes up 10% of the world's economy. This is especially remarkable considering that Japan's total land area is only about 146,000 miles squared, which makes it smaller than the state of California. Besides being the world's third largest economy, Japan is also home to the largest stock exchange in Asia, which is the Tokyo Stock Exchange. And much of Japan's economic success can be attributed to its first-class infrastructure, its highly educated workforce, and the fact that Japan's consumers are said to have a high level of disposable income. Japan is also responsible for producing 25% of the world's high-tech products, and its main industries include automobile, consumer electronics, computers, semiconductors, and iron or steel. It also has a labor force participation rate of 62.6%, which is quite similar to the US's about 63%. And to the right, we have a map highlighting some of Japan's major cities, many of which we are looking to expand to in the Global Chamber, as Doug mentioned earlier. So now we're going to take a little journey through some of Japan's major cities and look at them more in depth. And we'll be focusing on cities that are known for their economic development or are really up and coming in the business market, so great places to consider investing. And these include Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, Fukuoka, Yokohama, and Sapporo. And just to let you know, all of the statistics in these next few slides are from the JETRO website or the Japan External Trade Organization. All right, so our first stop is none other than the wonderful Tokyo, whose kanji literally means the Eastern capital. And while Tokyo is commonly viewed as Japan's major city, it is actually one of Japan's 47 prefectures rather than a city. And it has a population of 13.96 million, making it the most populated metropolitan area in the world. It also ranks third on the Global Power City Index, which measures the city's comprehensive power to attract people, capital, and enterprises from around the world. In other words, Tokyo is a very attractive business location due to its economy, research and development, cultural interaction, and livability. So what's so special about Tokyo that makes it an important location to do business? Well, for starters, Tokyo is quite literally a hub for technology and innovation, as it is home to 1,200 software startups, many of which are in advanced manufacturing or robotics. And as a result, its major industries include electronic appliances, automobiles, and a wide variety of consumer items. And Tokyo is also incredibly global, as it's home to 660,000 businesses, and over 75% of the foreign companies in Japan have their headquarters established there. What also adds to Tokyo's charm is its convenient and timely transportation system, especially the Shinkansen, which is the fastest train model in Japan. So the next stop on our journey is Osaka, which is about 2 hours and 30 minutes from Tokyo by train. And the city of Osaka itself has a population of about 2.7 million, while the whole of Osaka Prefecture is home to 8.8 million people, 250,000 of which are foreign residents. And it is also home to the second largest amount of businesses throughout Japan at about 180,000. Osaka is an ideal location for high-tech startups, and if you are interested in doing business in an area known for technological advancement, then this is definitely the place. Many companies are involved in services, manufacturing, and retail have launched here, and some of its major industries are in electronics, pharmaceuticals, and machinery, such as Panasonic or Sumitomo. Osaka is also a cultural convergence of fashion, innovation, biotech, and especially food, my all-time favorite, with great dishes like takoyaki and okonomiyaki. And despite its small size, Osaka's economic output also exceeds that of many European countries and is also equal to that of Canada. Now we'll turn to Kyoto, which is about 2 hours and 30 minutes from Tokyo by train. And it's a little less populated than Osaka, with a population of 1.5 million and a total prefecture population of 2.6 million. And it has nearly 200,000 establishments, according to our JETRO sources. So Kyoto is a little different because it's mainly known for its traditional handicrafts and tourist trade, as many of its thousands of medium and small industries are family owned and operated. It also has over 3,000 temples and shrines, and is home to some of the largest video game manufacturers in the world, such as Q Games and the very beloved Nintendo. All right, now we'll take a look a little more south to Fukuoka, which is about 5 hours from Tokyo by train or an hour and 45 minutes by plane. And fun fact, Fukuoka actually has the highest percent of new business creation in Japan, coming in at 7% compared to Tokyo's 4%. One of Fukuoka's most highlighted features is its geographical location. And this is because it is the closest Japanese city to cities in China, South Korea, and many more, which make it a great hub for international trade. And to add on to this, its economic centers are a mere 10 minutes from the international airport by subway. So international travel is very, very convenient. It also has been deemed a startup haven because of its lowered corporate tax rates for startups and its widespread regulatory reforms, which make it easier to launch businesses there. Finally, Fukuoka is quite welcoming to foreign entrepreneurs, as its global startup center is devoted to supporting entrepreneurial needs, and it was the only city to be deemed a global-based city by the national government in 2020. All right, so number 5 on our list is Yokohama, the capital of Kanagawa Prefecture and a mere 20-minute train ride from Tokyo. And it has a labor force of 1.738 million, and it has since been considered the gateway to the world since Yokohama's port was one of the first ports to be open to foreign trade in 1859. And not only is Yokohama the second largest city in Japan by population, but it is also seen a clustering of, you guessed it, IT, life sciences, mobility, manufacturing, and so much more, which has attracted a lot of universities and research institutions. And so as a result, the population is quite skilled and highly educated. And in particular, Yokohama is working to revitalize its biotech industry and even includes a subsidy to cover a portion of expenses associated with establishing a base in certain fields like biotech. All right, so our final stop on our Japan journey is Sapporo, which is the beautiful snow city and chocolate capital of Japan. Sapporo is the capital city of Hokkaido Prefecture with a population of 1.96 million and a labor force of 892,000. Hokkaido is the northmost prefecture in Japan, and it takes 8 hours from Tokyo by train or just an hour and 35 minutes by plane. Due to Hokkaido making up 14% of Japan's gross agricultural production and 23% of its fishing industry, the words "made in Hokkaido" carry a fair amount of weight. And this phrase has become a symbol of top quality products throughout Japan and the world. Its capital, Sapporo, is an ideal place to live or establish a business because of its high education levels, low costs and rent, and overall focus in IT and software development. While its 112 days of snowfall a year might not be for everyone, that snow means that Sapporo is home to numerous winter-themed festivals, attractions, and they even have an annual ice sculpture competition, which is a pretty crazy concept for a Phoenician like me. All right, so we have talked a lot about Japanese cities today, but in truth, we've really barely scratched the surface of what the Japan business world has to offer. And we'll just take a brief look at 6 other cities that we're looking to expand toward. Other major locations include Aomori, which is known for its abundant nature and apple production, Kobe, with, I'm sure you've heard of Kobe beef, and it has a bit of a modern flair to it, and Hiroshima, which is home to over 300 unique and leading companies. And then next we have Okoyama, which is known as the land of sunshine and is also famous for its delicious fruit. Nagoya, which serves as a manufacturing and shipping hub in central Honshu, and Shizuoka, where major companies such as Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki found their roots. All right, so that is my portion of our wonderful panel today. And I just thank you so much for your attention. And I really hope that you learned a little something about Japan here today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me on LinkedIn or by email. And I will now turn it over to Ms. Catherine O'Connell, who will speak about her experience doing business in Japan.
Wow, I just want to say shout out to you, Alexandra. That was amazing. Oh my
Thank
God.
you. Oh, you're too kind.
No. I have heard so many introductions, and I'm sure you have too, Jason, on the line here about Japan. But that was just fun and interesting and just full of life. Thank you so much for that. And, you know, long-term resident in Japan, 20 years this year, I still found things there that I didn't really know. And you refreshed my mind on how amazing it is and why I've chosen this country to live in. You know, that 660,000 businesses. Thanks for that statistic. I didn't have that one up my sleeve. And also, thank you for calling out Osaka as an electronics capital. You know, Panasonic there, I worked there 4 years, and it's sort of the poor cousin to Tokyo. But I'm so glad you called out so many fantastic stats on Osaka. And yes, Fukuoka is absolutely rocking. Absolutely rocking. So if you're thinking about Japan, you don't want to be in Tokyo, little secret is just been let out by Alexandra that Fukuoka is doing a great job. So that's my feedback. Doug, can I just carry on then from there?
Oh, please do.
Yeah, so you heard at the beginning, I do podcasts. I do two. One is about lawyers in Japan, and then the other one is about New Zealand businesses coming into Japan. And a lot of what they tell us is very relevant to a broader audience. So I thought today, instead of talking about myself and what I do as a lawyer, I have this fun job of interviewing people and finding out what they know. So I wanted to share with you some of the three first guests on the podcast shared some really great stuff about coming into Japan, market entry to Japan. And I thought I'd share those words from them directly because they're really very interesting. So there's 10 points. So I'm going to go through, count them off on your fingers as you go. The first person was, come here, is what they said. Spend time looking at similar products in the Japan market, understanding where they are placed on the shelf in a usual store, right? A convenience store, of which there are 50,000 in Japan, by the way. Just get a feel for yourself where the product actually fits into the Japanese market, right? That's point number one. Point number two, good things take time. Expect things to take longer in Japan than you would initially expect. If you're lucky to get some instant success, that's probably the exception rather than the norm. Often brands that have exceptional instant success have not necessarily stayed in Japan for a long time for a number of reasons. Maybe they had the wrong partner here. Maybe they had the wrong store choice. Maybe their product wasn't really quite suitable for the Japanese market. Number three, finding the right partner in Japan. On that point just mentioned, take your time to find the right partner and base your decision on a cultural fit with that partner and support them in any way that you can, even from the USA into Japan. Number four, tell your story well. Japan is a very, very, very curious market. And I know, Anne, you're going to agree with me on this one. Tell your full story and not just a few quick attributes about your product. Tell Japan why this product is fabulous, why it deserves to be in Japan. You really need to invest in your story. Story. Some people here like Lani, making stories, right? Lainey, you're making stories, but this is also creating a story around your product. Compared to other markets, is very huge in Japan. Japanese customers want to know things like, what's the name of your dog that sits outside the factory where you make your product? What breed of dog is it? I'm not being stupid here. This is true. They want to know things like that. They want to know what you're doing when you're not working, your hobbies and interests. They're curious. They want to know all these kinds of things, right? Okay, point number 5. Japan, as you just heard, very sophisticated market and highly educated. When it comes to anything international, when it comes to anything of quality, when it comes to anything from the gourmet world, whether it be cheese or honey or wine from the US, for example, they are a very receptive market. For example, if you were importing wine from California state, Washington state, you really need to know that in terms of wine education, Japan has more wine qualified sommeliers than any other country in the world, more than France, more than US. It's very sophisticated. And Japan is a country where they love getting badges and certificates and putting them on the wall and showing that they are the best at peeling onions the fastest, for example. I don't know if that's actually one, but it probably is. Number 6, it's not about rules. It's about investing in effort. It's a bit of a myth we hear that Japan is very hard to do business with. yes, there's a lot of regulatory stuff, but there are rules in every country you go into. One person said on the podcast, just find the people to help you do it. Find the Jason Balls of this world. He's a massive person who knows everybody in Tokyo. I've figured out, Jason. You just seem to know everyone and can point people in the right direction. Find your lawyer, find your advisor, find your Jason, and get the information through those people. Your problem really here is time and effort. Building up a business may take you a while, 4 to 5 years, but if you invest heavily, you're going to get there in the end. Number 7, don't skip on quality. Service has to be perfect here. I mean, standards around, say, a box that has a dint in it or a dent in it, it won't sell in Japan. It will sell in Korea, apparently, because they care about the inside of the product. Japan cares about the outside of the package, the way it's presented to you. So be very careful on that one. Number 8, I think I'm at number 8. Use your common sense. It's very, very common here to use common sense. It's a business of high integrity. Don't muck around. Make sure you deliver what you say you can do. Don't under-deliver. It's a very loyal market. Don't mess it up and don't lie. If you mess it up, don't lie, right? If you're not organic, don't say you're organic. Be very, very accurate and true, or Japan will just throw you away and leave you behind. They're not very forgiving. So be very good on those real critical integrity points. Number 9, relationship building and nurturing is key. Yeah, we know it is all around the world, but Japan especially. One of the podcast guests described it like this: it's just a matter of time. In Japan, you bang your head against the wall for 6 months. You keep banging your head, and then one day the wall falls down, and then you're in, the wall's gone forever, and that's how it works. You're in the in group. You're part of the furniture. I loved that expression. And number 10, know that business can be done always here by introductions. You'll have Jason or Anne or somebody introduce you to another person. By way of anecdote, one person in this group, not today's group, well, maybe today's group, but I won't say, someone in the chamber bypassed me to go directly to someone in my network. And that person contacted me and said, who's this person from Global Chamber? What's that? And I said, well, I know this person, but they'd said, well, they didn't come through you. Why didn't they do that? I don't feel like I can work with them. So that person never got any business because they skidded around the contact in the middle. So I just say that because, General Counsel's on my brain as a lawyer. Global Chamber also has a lot of people here, but use your contacts very well and always look to an introduction. Even if it feels easier to bypass and go direct, always go through someone. I also heard about some trends, but if we've got time, I'll go into that, Doug. That's enough for me on my top 10 tips from people who are here in Japan who've been here for 20 years. Aren't they cool tips? I thought they were really great to share.
What a great list. No, absolutely. And number 4 on you're creating your Japan story. What are your hobbies? Because part of them must be wine, right? Because every time I listen to the podcast, you seem to be drinking wine.
Oh, yes, but my wine consumption has definitely gone down.
Really?
I will be having, yeah, it has actually, but I do love a glass of wine, but I'm really only a 2-glass wine person now. I can't actually drink that much anymore. I used to have quite a capacity. No, so I love discovering new things around Japan. So I will go somewhere and not even know really with a map where I am and just wander and finding out places I've never been and getting lost actually and finding my way back. That's something that I love doing as an aside. There's lots of other hobbies I have. I make jewelry, actually. That's one people don't know. So I create things and make some jewelry as my side hobby.
Truly a Renaissance woman. In 3 weeks, by the way, we have our virtual dining event on wine/sake. So it's going to be a sake focused 3 weeks from today. So if you can attend that, because you enjoy sake too, right?
Oh yeah, it's sake, beer, or wine. That's my 3 go-tos.
Okay, very, very cool. Do you have any idea of all the countries in the world, which one has the most restaurants per capita?
Jason could help me on this, but I think it's actually Japan. You can't really get around all. If you went to a different restaurant for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and also a morning snack, afternoon snack, you would never get around them in 365 days, apparently.
I had heard that there were over 80,000 restaurants in Tokyo. And so I did some research on this, and Japan leads the world in numbers of restaurants. There's 475,000 restaurants in Japan, one per 266 residents of the country, and that amounts to about 100,000 restaurants. So the number I had heard is in the ballpark of that.
Yeah.
So you can pretty much go to dinner for
Yeah,
every meal and never reach anywhere near what's
exactly.
there.
And
So,
then, Doug, if you add in those 50,000 convenience stores I just mentioned, you know, people go there for lunch. They will go there and get their noodles or their onigiri, rice balls. And so actually a convenience store could be termed to be a kind of restaurant in a way,
Yeah,
right?
those
It's a
aren't even
place of
counted.
getting food. So we can add the 50,000 of those in there as well.
Add all the Lawsons in and all the other ones. So fantastic. Thank you for sharing. And so we're going to try to get to everybody so we're about halfway through, but I do want to make sure we get to Jason Ball next, because he has to leave in about 15 minutes for another meeting, and he may be able to come back, but it's not guaranteed. So Jason, are you still there? And do you have any reaction to 475,000 restaurants in Japan? How many do you think you've been to? Uh-oh, are you there, Jason? Did we lose him?
Jason, you've got to go off mute, mate.
Sorry, I thought was off mute and was using this bar. Absolutely, for a foodie and someone who studied cooking straight out of school, professional cooking. It's a big part of enjoyment as a foreigner in Japan, not just for Japanese cuisine, but especially because of Japanese cuisine, but all the other food there. They have the population to support it, and they have the passion, and they have the cleanliness, and they have the focus on the customer's experience, freshness of goods. It's just an incredible experience to live there and be able to try all this stuff. But you're absolutely right. The most number of Michelin starred restaurants as well. Yep. And convenience stores, almost an understatement. There's a huge, especially blue collar industry, will be eating breakfast and lunch at a convenience store every day, every workday. Yeah. You
could probably also respond positively to number 9 on the list from Catherine, and that is relationships. Because is there really any gaijin who has more relationships than you in Japan through your business in Japan and others? You spend a number of years in Japan, and you're so well connected everywhere. Congratulations on your success.
Yeah, thanks for that. I can introduce myself shortly, but on that subject, it's not just about the people I can reach out to and touch. It's the fact that I know how to continually grow that network, and it's the bleeding edge of a network where the magic happens, and the person after and the person after. And so I also recommend that to others, to start targeting your broad network in the areas you want, because it does take time to build a network, and we're all busy, and it's information overload. So at least focus on the keywords and the industries and the things that interest you, and then just massive action. Get out there and network, build your network. Don't lead with you and what you want, but lead with any commonness, any commonality. Commonality is the beginning of rapport. And if nothing else, say, I'm just networking. I'm just networking. What you've got to, for a foreigner or a Japanese person, you've got to give a reason why you're reaching out, and it's a perfectly good and legitimate reason. I haven't been doing enough networking. I'm absolutely focused or interested in Japan, and so I'm reaching out today to build my network, and please let me know how I can help you. This is me. But I mean, you don't dump all that in the first message, but let what you want, your immediate goals, come up naturally in conversation. Absolutely, bring them up and have a way to articulate them. But I can talk more. I will join the Global Chamber meets for Japan and help them expand. Throw some lubrication in there. But on the networking point, the connections point, the right partner point, some of the biggest mistakes of people contacting me who want business from Japan, whether they're an owner in a smaller company or a salesperson or a regional head in a large company, is they kind of imagine it's similar to their current company or even expansions into other companies, where they'll do some investigation, they'll do some remote sales, and then some business will come from Japan. And like Catherine said, it does happen, but it would be rare. It would be rare in a Japanese firm. It would be rare in a large successful foreign firm in Japan, unless you have some reason to be there, as simple as having someone introduce you to the right person. And the other thing is, you won't be presenting to an individual in most cases. You're presenting to a group of people that will meet you over time as you, assuming you succeed to move into the company, whose job it is to hear from people like you. They aren't decision makers. They aren't purchasing people, saying, I will meet you. You won't get in at all unless they feel like it's a natural part of their job to have present you on the table. And just because you got over that significant hurdle and got to that point doesn't mean you're progressing very well. You've just actually got to a person who is part of a group of people who assess this sort of stuff. And so that's a goal, not imagining a decision maker and we'll do 1 or 2 presentations and then they'll sign. If you have a longer view, more patience, and of course time is money. If you have money to invest in Japan, and if you haven't got time and money, maybe it's not the right time. Just go back to building your network. So it's your level of commitment that's going to be visible in everything you do and the way you present before you even open your mouth. Your level of commitment will be written all over your face. And if you're just imagining to just go in there and buy our stuff, and if you help me do that, I'll give you some of the money to some intermediary. It's rare as hen's teeth that some commission-only success-based thing will happen. It happens, and especially if you went to university with some Japanese guy and he's now sort of retired, semi-retired, and you reconnect with him and he's got a big Meishi or name card book full of people in an entire industry, and he likes you. Yeah, it could happen. But that's not likely to be the case. And hiring that older guy, assuming that he'll be like that for you when you don't have that level of relationship, is probably not a realistic situation as well. So connections on the ground, not least for them to listen to what you think is going to happen and to ask you questions about your market entry approach or your go-to-market approach, is important. And you can get that for free. You can build relationships and join podcasts and clubhouses and other online events, or of course get there to Japan when things open up, start experiencing it, start building a network. Again, that without saying a word, that starts to put a shine of commitment on your effort. So yeah, Japan's opening up with the visa situations. They're self-sponsored visas, if people are in the situation to do that. In some cities are down to 3 million yen, I understand, from 5. And startup visas are starting to pop up in places like Shibuya and Sapporo. Yeah, it's getting easier to start your business here. Tokyo always has a very mature and ever improving method for talking to you about market entry. So get in touch with Tokyo Metropolitan Government's sort of out of country facing situation, especially if you're serious and you have a budget for hiring people and setting up. They will point you towards places where they'll support you to rent and give you money towards your first hiring. Using recruiters here is quite expensive. Yeah, beyond that, I have comments on some of the great points from Catherine and her guests. But if you're a product company, do your research or pay someone to do your research on what is top selling in e-commerce platforms. There's even services you can buy that can use technology to give you reports on that. And consider testing your product in e-commerce, but not just sticking it in a shop in an unknown shop in Amazon, or spending a bit more money and getting into Rakuten. because just being there isn't enough. You'll need to spend a lot of money in terms of, I'm echoing, a lot of money in advertising to let people know that you exist on that platform. But testing with ecom is, however, a lot cheaper than, of course, setting up a pop-up store or some other physical ways of getting in. Localization, it's not just translation. Make sure if you're going to even begin that your presentations are like Catherine was talking about. They tell stories. They show detail and passion. Mention all the famous brands you work with, but of course, if you've got any famous brands that are definitely represented in Japan that you have done business with, even outside Japan, mention it and try and tell some details to underline it about how that happens, about the level of your relationship. And as I said, remember, you're not speaking to an individual decision maker in most cases. It's a beginning of a process of your product, even before you get there, getting put in front of people before meetings, nemawashi, the meetings before the meetings, and then meetings to say, are we going to do this? Are we going to have a listen to these guys? That sort of stuff happens. And once you're in, once you get your first sale, you're on the way to becoming a customer that they're going to be loyal to. And then Japanese firms are much less likely to give up their existing relationships, and including you trying to get in there. They won't do it for money necessarily. They won't do it for a more modern product in many cases. They'll have to be having problems that you're going to solve for you to be able to get into someone that's been using an existing vendor for a long time. Again, level of commitment. You're not just going to be able to sit outside Japan and get some remote business in most cases, unless you have someone on the ground who's making that happen for you. So
fantastic.
Yeah, that's the general feel. If you're building something new for the Japanese market, they love mascots. They love busy websites that still to this day, they love cutesy stuff. They love something that in their mind reminds them of what it is you do. So keep that in mind and research what others like you are already doing in Japan, especially foreign companies that seem to be making it. All right, I do have to go. But yeah, I'm Jason, Australian. Arrived in Japan, Golden Week 2003. Hit the ground running, was working at 7 a.m. the next morning, disconnecting computers on Morgan Stanley's trading floor, and had maybe 5 different lives where I had different jobs, different people around. Well, they overlapped, but in Japan, and I loved it. And I only left because my daughter's 9 years old. And we were looking for a better childhood, a more free, open, relaxed childhood that doesn't have to follow so many rules. And it's not just education and the learning cram school experience, but that's a big part of it as well. So were she older, we probably would have brought her here to get her into university and then come back. And we may come back at some point, and we'll be coming back probably yearly, COVID allowing. And please do reach out to me. It's hub networkers like me that can connect you to others. So yeah, just build your network slowly and not all about you. And even if you're just building the flower bed for the future.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. If you can jump back in after your meeting, please do. We're probably going to go a little bit over, but I know you've got other things to do, and we really do
goes
appreciate
15 minutes or an hour and 15. It's not a normal meeting. It's a handover meeting. But yeah, thank you very much.
In the meantime, you can connect it to Jason on LinkedIn and also Business in Japan, the group.
Yes, it is a network business networking group, but I'll be relaunching it or representing it, repositioning it to let people know what I do in the background and have been doing for more than a decade, which is I have a growing list of Business in Japan partners, people I trust and people who I have a business relationship with, where I refer business, almost like an expert network, except that I I put them together, I set the meetings and that sort of thing, whether it be back office accounting and tax, or whether it be a unique way of doing recruiting in Japan, or translation, localization, anything like that, or strategic introduction in some cases related to generating clients or finding local partners. Let me know if I can help you. And Doug, great work with Global Chamber from when we first talked and you first started doing your stuff with everybody. Look forward to being involved. Well done, and Andrea. That was Alexandra. That was a fantastic presentation indeed. Good to see you, Catherine. Everybody, see you again. If not
Thank you.
Later, then another one. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Bye.
We're going to continue to go around the room, and I'd love to have Shin Suzuki speak right now from CFE Corporation. He's based in Roppongi, part of Tokyo, and it turned out he's a member of Global Chamber, and I found out that he and I were in Detroit at the same time. So not only is he an expert on the Japanese market, but he's an expert on the US market as well, and in particular automotive, construction, and industrial. Those areas. He is an amazing networker and connector, and he knows everybody in those industries. And so, Suzuki-san, thank you for joining us today. What comments do you have on our discussion so far? Anything that you disagree with or violently agree with, or anything else you'd like to share about the market in Japan?
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm Shane. I'm based in Tokyo, Japan here. Thanks so much for the introduction, Doug-san. I'm kind of expert. Yeah, probably I'm the expert of helping overseas firms who are interested in doing business in Japan. I have been doing it at least more than 25 years. I used to live in Michigan, Detroit, like Doug-san said, back many years ago. I have an MBA from University in Michigan, and I worked there at the American local companies of 3 to 4 years. After that, I returned to Japan. So, yeah, my office is in Roppongi, where you may be able to find quite a number of restaurants, good ones, or maybe bad ones. I don't know, whatever.
It's going to be expensive, probably.
No, not necessarily. Yes,
Oh, no?
some are,
Okay.
yes, some are not.
Okay.
And first of all, Alexandra, great presentation, amazing. You probably know more than I do now. So pretty much, yes, I agree. So far, and Japan is maybe quite unique for overseas firms who are looking into doing business in Japan. I think that is probably same everywhere you go. You need to check out first a market and how you want to do it. Talk with local people. Building connections in Japan, yes, it's an important factor, but may not be as strong as those in China. In China, I'm not an expert in China, but if you want to do business in China, connection is almost everything, more than even price. That I was told many times from friends in China. Japan, yes. So what else? Yeah, if you want to do business in Japan, markets are, there are some good markets. Just question of how you want to do it, when you want to do it. If you need some initial consultation, I'm wide open for you. Just send me an email or, through Doug-san or Caesar-san or Global Chamber, which is a very well established organization. And I have been working with Doug-san, and I have been enjoying doing it. So that's me. And if you have any questions and need to reach me out, more than welcome, directly or through Doug-san. I'm looking forward to talking with any of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's really a good point. I see in the chat area, the number of you have made comments, and please feel free to put your information. And if there's someone that you'd like to be connected to, let us know. Always get a hold of one of us, and we'll find a way to make that happen. Thank you, Suzuki-san. Really appreciate it. Before we go to Anne, I will speak next. I wonder if Kelly Moore is available. Kelly is the honorary consul for Japan in Arizona. He's the recipient of the Rising Sun Award. Very few foreigners have received that special recognition, and I was quite honored to be invited to attend that ceremony and was very impressed, not only with the ceremony itself, but hearing Mor-san's long career in Japan, and then all the things he does, including running the largest Japanese festival in the United States for over 20 years in Phoenix, Arizona, of all places. Kelly, are you available just to say hi and make any comments?
Yes, I'm having internet problems today.
Okay.
In fact, we haven't had internet all day long, and I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to do this on my phone. That's why I don't have my video on, but it's actually working pretty well.
Wonderful.
And one correction, I think we're coming up on 40 years for the Matsuri.
Wow.
In 2024, so
Amazing.
we're there. But according to, I mean, listening to all the comments today, and this was my experience early on in Japan, it is about connections and meeting people, really. And then not only just meeting, but maintaining those with some sort of quality kind of interaction. You know, any connection that you make. And, you know, to this, that's why we exchange business cards, for example. You know, you want to get to know that person. And so no matter what your endeavor is, and I was involved in education more, but it still was the same kind of concept that you would encounter a person and follow up with that meeting, and, you know, in a meaningful way. And sometimes it takes some time, and I kind of heard garden growing and things like that over today's speech. And those were really my experiences as well. I mean, you just had to get to know people and maintain whatever you established.
You're quite connected from the Arizona side into the Los Angeles consulate and then into Japan overall. What are some of the things that you're seeing that either the consulate is emphasizing, or things from your own perspective that people should be thinking about for Japan, either business related or otherwise?
Well, I have to look at it from an Arizona standpoint, because I live in the Phoenix area as well. And I think here, you know, sort of, it's the Handotai industry, the not transistors, but the semiconductor industry, which is really big. And one of the things that's kind of interesting from the consulate and just Japan in general is the promotion of hydrogen as an energy source. And I think the more I've learned about it, the more I've read about it, it does look like it's the wave of the future in one way. I mean, we have windmills and we have other things, but it seems like hydrogen, I mean, from powering cars to homes. And that's one of the things that I'm seeing coming from the consulate in the Arizona area.
They've been emphasizing that quite a bit, actually, the last couple trips, right, on hydrogen and of course the semiconductor industry. We did that event a few months ago that you were part of. So
yes,
thank you for your support.
Yeah, and we also we do have the car industry here, and mainly because it's so hot all the time that they like to see if their cars work or not. You know, this kind of rough environment. But, you know, we have a big presence from Toyota and Nissan as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Kelly, for all your collaboration and support over the years, and thank you for joining today, despite the computer issues.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Anyway, I've enjoyed the comments so far. I've been actually learned quite a bit so far, so it's great. I'll hang up now.
Oh, our pleasure. Thank you very much. Let's go to Elizabeth Ann Kyle, and she's tied into the tourism and hospitality industry located in Tokyo. She and her husband, who also has a company that is a member called We Connect. Matthew Kyle, former New York Knick, played for Mike D'Antoni, I think, and also, as we pointed out in previous meetings, 6'10", 7 foot tall, definitely sticks out in Tokyo. And I've actually just recently seen pictures of you and Matthew together, and it's amazing. There's a little bit of a difference. Both of you are involved with business in Japan, and so congratulations on your work. Tell us more about some things we should be thinking about.
Right. So, hi everyone, I'm Anne. Before I do a very brief introduction of me, by show of hands, I want to see those who are foodies here. Foodies. Want to come to Japan? Let me see. Anyone wants to come to Japan? Okay. We've mentioned Catherine and Jason mentioned tremendously how important it is to have connections here in Japan. I am your connection when it comes to trying Japanese food, learning about the culture, and really experiencing Japan. I started my company about 6 years ago out of my love for food, travel, and connecting people. So if you are coming to Japan with your family, with your coworkers, with your company, or if you have friends who are visiting here on business, please connect them with me. Catherine was mentioning about like the hundreds and thousands of restaurants that we have here. That is my job. My job is to show all of these beautiful spots, to take you to these hidden destinations, like beautiful gems where you eat like skewers in a hole-in-a-wall place. That is my expertise. We also do team building events. So if you have any companies, if you have any events coming to Japan, please feel free to reach out to me. And I also work in the tourism industry. So right now we are preparing to get ready for reopening, hopefully in the next coming month. I am training guides all over Japan to become storytellers. Storytelling is very important. It doesn't matter what culture you come from. And Japanese people are very humble. Like they would have a history, a story of about 500 years, 300 years of this like soba or like the sake company that produces the best sake, but they will never tell you the history. So our goal is to bring those stories to life and share the stories of local people. So please feel free to connect with me. Although right now Japan is not really fully open for inbound tourism, which means tourists can come here, but under a package tour. So it's quite complicated because you have to be on a guided tour the whole time, right? I mean, I love traveling, but I don't want to be on a guided tour 24/7, right? So it's a little complicated right now, like how to come to Japan. You can come on business, and if you have like family who are permanent resident or long-term residents, families can come here to do some sightseeing. We will have a better understanding of how things will look like after the elections. So hopefully the borders will reopen soon. So thank you everyone. And please let me know if you are coming here. I'd love to show you the best of Japan.
After which elections? Sorry, Anne, after which elections and what time of the year is that? Uh-oh, I think I lost you. So does anybody know when the Japanese elections are?
Upper house elections are on now, and they'll finish, thankfully, next week.
Okay.
There's so much advertising and people going around the neighborhood with loudspeakers, and it's a bit annoying, but it's looking like there's not going to be any change to the current situation. So after that's finished, I think it's the 11th, everything will start to sort of open up a little bit more because the government's not doing any movement right now, Doug, to announce various things. They're just keeping it on the level, right? Not doing anything new. So we should see some more opening up, we think, after these elections finish this coming weekend. Yep.
Very good. Thank you for that update. We are going to go a little bit past the hour because we want to get to everybody. There's a couple more speakers, and also then we're going to open it up for questions. I know, Catherine, you're really busy. Hopefully you can hang on for a few more minutes, or do you have okay.
No, I'm good. I've got another podcast I'm recording on the top of the next hour, but I'm good for the moment. Yep, sure.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. I'd like to turn it back to Alexandra, and she has a couple guests that she'd like to introduce. Alexandra.
Yeah, so I would just like to introduce Mr. John Haruki, and Haruki-san is a managing partner at the Global Travel Telecom and has a lot of experience doing business in both Tokyo and America, and he was kind enough to lend some of his expertise to this event. So Haruki-san, would you mind just saying a few words on your experience doing business?
Sure. I basically I grew up. I was born and raised in the United States, but I went to university in Japan. While I was attending university, I started my first business doing translation work, and then I went into designing, and I basically started up about 7 businesses in Japan in the early 2000s, and at one point I decided to just pack everything up and come back to the United States. So I am currently in the United States running a global travel, travel targeted telecom business. We rent out portable Wi-Fi's to travelers, and we sell SIM cards globally. And our main target is actually people traveling to Japan and coming to the United States from Japan. So we are in development with, we're developing apps and different types of services with SoftBank and JTB and some other related businesses. So yeah, I do have experience in those areas, and also business connections in IT and travel industry. I have plenty of them. So if I can help anybody in any way, I would be glad to do so. And my parents are from Japan, so I do speak the language, and the university I went to is called Keio University. Keio University has a really special bond in the Alumni Association, and that's always helped me doing business globally, actually. Even in Los Angeles, there's a member of about 300 people all connected with business entities, and connection, as all of the speakers said today, connection is very important doing business in Japan. And I would love to share that with everybody, and also to get the opportunity to connect with as many people as possible.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Haruki-san, and thank you for attending. And then the other group I wanted to shout out, Noriko-san, you've been so patient, and thank you so much for coming. Noriko-san, and I'm not sure if Miyako-san is on here, but if she is, they are part of the Global Republic, which is an organization that I have been working with recently. And Noriko-san, would you be willing to introduce the Global Republic to our members?
Hi everyone, I'm from Los Angeles, and I have heard your speaking last year when you attended one of the rooms, like Doug and Catherine and a couple of more, the people. So I'm here to little bit introducing the Global Republics. And before that, I am a mom of 2, and one, my son graduated from USC, University of Southern California, and my daughter is, she will be senior year at the UC Irvine, and I have lived in America a little over 30 years, and I'm originally from Yokohama, and I used to work in Tokyo. So today's Alex presentation reminded me a lot about Japan. Thank you so much, Alex. So some of you already know about the Global Republics, and I would like to introduce some of the key factors about the Global Republics. The Global Republics aim to be a community where we can all work together to start and develop big projects, such as going to space. The group was formed on April 4th, 2021, it's last year, and the room has been open every single day since then. Today was the 461st time, and roughly every single morning, 400 people participate in the room. And the Global Republic hopes that everyone will actively contribute to the development of the community to the best of their ability. And the Global Republic hopes this will be a place where members can help each other and add value to the group. The the global republics will bring about a community-based global revolution. And we are working with the idea that this place will not only foster global business, but also be a safe zone for making friends who share and support each other through difficult times. Participants will play the role of lead actor in their lives, offer what they can to help others, and spread the creation of a society starting with individuals and regions from Japan to the world. And let me introduce Global Republic's philosophy, which is introduced every single morning at the beginning of the room. So, it will, help you to understand what's the philosophy and what's the body, like. And the founder is the Japanese lady who came to America like 25 years old, and she lives in Los Angeles, and she is an entrepreneur and very successful businesswoman who owns more than a couple of the companies. And she's very successful, but she tried to form and connect people with her philosophy. So here is the philosophy. The Global Republic is a community dedicated to improving the world. We began as a group on the audio-based social network Clubhouse, and now we have over 9,400 members. We have also been featured on the website for Japan's Ministry of Education, NHK's morning show, and International Research in Behavioral Economics. We meet on Clubhouse every day from 6 to 7 a.m. Japan Standard Time, and we would love for you to join us. Members of the Global Republic take charge of our own lives so that we can help others. We speak our minds openly and listen respectfully to everyone's opinions, regardless of speaking ability. Through engaging discussions, we create lasting friendships and business opportunities that will transform the economy and society as a whole. As a positive influence on our families and other people around us, we prove that happiness comes when we let our goodness shine. The most important remark is one for all for one, give, and receive. As you heard the last words, give, and receive. This is the top priority for global republics. Give first, then receive later. So it's not the like economic first community, but now it's shifted to more economic way. The company offers us now special deal to expand more, and some Japanese company trying to reach out to Japan Festival in Houston, Texas this year in November to introduce Japanese products. So that kind of things just happened, and the Global Republics just formed last spring. So it's been only 15 and 16 months, but it's already formed with 9,400 people. So everybody's trying to do whatever they can do, and mostly in Japan. So like 99% members living in Japan, and I'm the only couple of them who actively, working in America. So if you guys, have want to, connect with, Japanese entrepreneur in Japan, it's a good place to come to join. And mostly, everything, happening in Japanese. So if you can speak, understand Japanese, it's a lot easier. But the people living in Japan, it's hard to speak English and communicate with English, but they are willing to expand more now globally. So it's better to, start connecting the people in Global Republic. So if you have any question about it, you can contact me. Maybe I can leave my contact number, or you can ask Alex too. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Noriko-san. And Doug, I'll hand it back to you.
Fantastic. Some of the alignment that Global Chamber and Global Republic have is certainly on the, especially now with the commerce side, but gender balance and diversification that the Global Republic, I would say probably most of those 9,000 are women. Certainly most of the folks in the rooms are women. They also believe in anyone can be successful. Not just the big companies, but any entrepreneur. So there's a real spirit of entrepreneurship and supporting each other, and hence the give, receive mentality, very consistent with our global tribe. And so the Japan connection, I think, for Global Chamber will certainly involve Global Republic, and hence we really appreciate your conversation today, Noriko, and sharing very much. We're going to now open up the floor, accept one more introduction. If you can speak, Beverly Wasacek, thank you so much for meeting up with Alexandra and your introductions. Do you have a moment to speak and say anything you'd like to share about the Japanese market or anything else we'd like to know?
Thanks. I've loved to hear all of it. It really makes me want to jump on a plane and go there right now.
Drink and eat and whatever.
Yeah.
And do some business.
I really wasn't that much in the business world. I was really in the nonprofit world, but I think that what everybody has said, everything that I've had in my background from the time I grew, was very young growing up, was definitely about networking, about making relationships, about building that trust. And I think that can't just be emphasized enough. I work with the expat community here in Arizona, and it does take time to build those networks, but I have a very broad network, and I'm so pleased to have it. But it takes a lot of inviting people over and having barbecues and meeting up for zarusoba and whatever needs to happen. And the Japanese people are very kind and will reach far and beyond for you. But first, you need to show them that you're willing to go that same mile. Thank you so much for everybody's comments. They've been wonderful.
Thank you very much. And Beverly, you're still involved with the Japan Business Association, correct, in Arizona?
I am involved now as a retired volunteer.
I see. Okay. And those types of organizations, how unusual is an organization like that in other countries or in the U.S.? Is that fairly typical that Japanese expats would be getting together and drinking and eating and golfing, I guess, are part of what they do?
There's Japan Business Associations. Sometimes they're called Japanese Firms Associations all over the world. Many times they're originally formed for the purpose of supporting the Japanese language school so that their children can continue to study and keep up with the level of education so that when they return to Japan, they can fit right back into the Japanese schools. Most JBAs in larger cities here in the United States are more involved in the community and in networking. As I think you and Kelly have both mentioned, a lot of the Japanese businesses here support Intel and the semiconductor industry. And we find that often those businesses here in Phoenix particularly are satellite offices, not the home office. So they're not, they have many wonderful employees, but they're not the employees who are the decision makers for their companies. So in that way, we have a little bit of a different dynamic here, where if you're in New York or in Southern California, for example, you have decision makers and high-level managerial staff. And so they do much more networking and involvement with chambers of commerce and that type of thing.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing. Really appreciate it. Let's open up the floor. What questions do people have? I don't see any hands raised, but does anybody have any questions for any of the speakers? Almost everyone, I think, except Elizabeth and Kyle is around. And I saw Jason maybe going in and out of meeting. I'm not sure. So he may not be available. What questions do we have? Any comments out there? Don't be shy. Dozo. I'll bet you Lainey has a question. She always has a question.
I will shock you and say that I don't have a question, but I do have a thank you to everybody who's spoken. This has been an amazing amount of learning, information sharing in the most kind and energizing way. So thank you to everybody who's spoken.
I think that's a really good point. And I think, Alexandra, you set the tone by presenting something in just a very interesting way, in a little bit of a different way. And you really set the tone, I think, for everybody. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for recognizing that, Lainey. Lainey, as everyone knows, wrote the book on dealing with Americans. In fact, I think it's called Dealing with Americans, right? Or what is it called?
Working with Americans.
Working
with Americans. Our effort, my co-author and I, our effort to explain some of the things that we Americans do that other people find at the very most modest puzzling, so that so that we can bridge some of those differences.
And Lainey's my neighbor in the Bay Area, and so she's part of the chapter there, and got to meet her for the first time in person at an in-person event at a French restaurant and with a group in Menlo Park. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
It was fun.
Anybody else? What questions do you have, or comments or thoughts? Anything we left out, maybe? This is a very polite audience. I see. Go ahead. I think somebody jumped up. Oh, Larry, are you? Would you like to say something? Larry Brill is our Deputy Director, Global Chamber, Baltimore, Washington, and he's a trade expert. He spent decades with the U.S. Commercial Service, and he just knows everybody in trade. And you've worked just about everywhere around the world. Congratulations, Larry. What would you like to comment on?
Yeah, I want to ask Jason and Catherine. In particular, could you discuss intellectual property protection in Japan for American manufacturers, what they need to know about that process?
I'm sure Jason will agree that is a huge topic and worthy of a 2-hour webinar in itself. What I can say is that you will need to see a Japanese benrishi, an IP attorney who does that work in Japan. I'm sure Jason does, as well as I have a network there of people we know. But, it depends what you're after as well. Is it a trademark? Is it copywriting? Is it a patent? But certainly for trademarks, there's one big thing I'll tell you is that I think in the States, it's all based on usage. So you could use a name, working with Americans. Working with Americans is your trademark, right? You've been using it for years and years and years. You get to the patent office and trademark it first because of a usage basis. In Japan, it's not like that. It's the first one to file. So you could have used it for 20 years. Too bad. If you're not the first one in the door, putting your application on the counter, you lose that right to register the trademark working with Americans. Someone else might get ahead of you. So the point there is, if you're planning to do a trademark exercise in Japan, don't tell people you're going to do it unless it's you're at one advisor or maybe one other confidant. Otherwise, you could have someone slip in there before you and get it, and then you're buying it off them, and that's a real exercise. So I'll just say that's a good thing about trademarks. That comes up quite a bit. That's a really black and white difference between US and Japan. Jason, you might have something else there. You're on mute.
Sorry, not really. It's sort of your side, but that is great advice. So don't say the very typical patent pending on all your documents for Japan. Just don't mention it. And work on it. Yeah, make sure you're seeing a professional. In some cases, I'm not sure it's the case in IP law, but there are foreign lawyers who will do it for you. They'll give you the advice. They'll draw up documents. But if it ever needs to go to court, they're not able to go to court for you unless it's part of a big firm and they have Japanese bengoshi. So there's no way for a foreigner to represent someone in court here. Is that right?
Yeah, there's some exceptions for arbitration now. They have opened that up a little bit, but basically for Japanese court, it has to be a Japanese lawyer who's qualified in Japan. Yeah. But, most IP attorneys will give you a quote. They'll give you a really accurate estimate quote for what you need. They will give you usually a 30 minutes where they can give you a general outline of your possible success in registering a patent, for example, or a trademark. And from there, they'll let you know how much it'll cost to consult with them. So I tend to find that the Japanese attorneys, patent attorneys I work with, do have a short, free consult, and then you go further in, and they'll tell you usually, that's not going to work, or yep, that looks like it's going to work. We need some more discussion on that.
I wonder, Suzuki-san, you work with US and other companies, European companies coming into Japan. Do you run into that issue often, where one of the first things you end up doing is helping them identify what their intellectual property is to be protected in Japan?
Doug-san, first of all, thanks a lot. And as you may be already aware, I'm a kind of expert of IP. We used to help Dalby laboratories for many, many years. Intellectual properties, that is one of my expertise. I'm more than happy to help, discuss, and give some advices. I closely work with IP attorneys and other lawyers. I'm sure, a gentleman wants to know, okay, if he has to invest such amount of money, what he would be getting. Happy to help. Just contact me, and I'm wide open for discussion. And answer to your question, Doug-san, yes, IPs are protected if you are the person owns the IPs. Did I answer your question?
Yes, I don't think you're getting it. I was trying to think of what you were saying, but I think I actually got what you said. So basically, I think you said the same thing as Catherine in a different way, that get it protected. And once you have it protected, it's yours, and it should be fine. It'll be legally protected.
Yes. So once again, first come, first gets. How many years you have been using? But if you don't register, it's not going to be yours. If somebody comes and register first, the person will get it, no matter how many years you have been using here in Japan. It doesn't matter.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Any other comments about that topic? And Larry, did that answer your question?
It certainly did. It was great advice. It's similar to the advice I provide my clients. I can't overstress, particularly with small businesses, how important IPR is. People tend to forget about it. Anywhere in the world, if you're going to do any exporting, you've got to put IP on the top of the list of things you need to think about.
Very good. Thank you. And what other questions or comments do people have? Anybody else?
I have a quick question. My name is Andrew, and I'm here in Hiroshima. And just for those who might be outside of Japan or in Japan as well, running businesses and wanting to target Japanese employees, I came to Japan as a mascot, and now I'm doing a lot of freelance work here in Japan, and just launching an English learning course for Japanese people, help with online SEO and things like that. But for people who are wanting to bring a business to Japan, myself included, I've been trying to do a lot of organic, and a lot of my business has come from introductions, as everyone's saying how important introductions are. Let's say you don't have those introductions, whether that's like maybe Catherine would be able to answer this, but is there some place that you'd say you could recommend, like this kind of agency is good, or this kind of thing should be avoided when you're trying to get into the marketing your product or your business in Japan?
That's hard, since my business is mostly based on anything to do with relationships, especially after 20 years here and 30 years connection with Japan. I'm trying to think way back then when I started, I joined organizations such as Global Chamber, or I was on a Matsuri as well, a festival back in Christchurch. We did a Christchurch and Japan Festival, and I met people in that committee. I joined the Sister City Committee and built up relationships then. So I would just say, join and give and meet your connections there, and then they will go to an introduction. But you've really got to start with something. And I think organizations that bring people together are the first start. If I think back to, that's how I have built everything. And there are people that I've met at the Matsuri committee, at the Sister City committee, who are still my contacts right now and look after me. And me, them, obviously, yeah. So that would be my suggestion. I don't know if that's a really good answer. Jason's on the phone, I can see, so he probably can't talk with you on that one. But some, Suzuki-san might have an answer there, because how do you find the connection if you are not connected?
You talk to Suzuki-san, probably.
Join
Yes, in
Global Chamber
Japan.
here in Tokyo, right, Dag-san? Am I supposed to say that? Don't you think? That's a
Thank you very
really
much.
good first place to start with.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's what I said at the start too. So you're right. Join an organization such as this one. Jason, how do you meet contacts if you don't have contacts?
Yeah, you start somewhere, and for Hiroshima, just as an example, Thunderbird School of Global Management, where we've moved our headquarters, they've now got a relationship with a university there in Hiroshima, and they're opening up doors for us. And so we don't know anyone in Hiroshima, but then the next step is you make those connections. So we welcome you to be connected. I think you came in through Devin Elliott, right? At Sumitomo
Yes, that's
Chemical?
correct. Devin Elliott and I worked at we both worked at the Hiroshima baseball team, and that's how we got our start in Japan.
Okay. So, and this, I had lunch with Alexandra and Devin recently with actually, I was thinking of this Catherine. It was a Japanese fellow also. It was the fourth. And he was the person you were talking about, not the president of the company, but the guy who was deciding whether the next step with Global Chamber should happen or not. It was exactly as you described, because I was wondering, who is this guy? And that's exactly who it was. And Devin is an interesting fellow, because I thought he was the mascot for the Hiroshima Carp, right? And you were also, or?
Yes, they changed the mascot out. They bring someone over from the US, but he did it for 4 years, and I did it for 2 years and worked in other positions for another 4 years. So
amazing.
And what really kind of interesting start in Japan.
What business are you thinking about doing?
Right now, I just got a huge video production job for the Hilton Hotel in Hiroshima that's opening up this year, which is amazing experience. That's probably going to lead to many things. So I'm helping with West Japan as much as I can with basically creative marketing type things, whether that's related to promoting your business online through MEO, map engine optimization, or making videos, or learning English for Japanese companies. Just getting them to be more global is my outreach right now. And I have different little miniature businesses within those fields.
Fantastic. Jason Ball is asking whether you guys could be connected. And I mean, what you're talking about is definitely a fit for us too. So let's get connected. I think you spoke with Alexandra also,
That's
didn't
correct.
you recently? Okay,
yes.
Great. So appreciate that. Look forward to the opportunity to learn more. I think we're now at the 90-minute mark. So we're a little bit kind of blown past all gates and checkpoints and things like that. So we probably need to wrap it up. I think we could spend the next few hours having this, especially if we start drinking a little sake or whatever. That would probably not do Catherine's or Andrew's day very well, because you've already started Friday. It's a little early in the day for you. So thank you all for attending today. Just really just so happy and pleased, and all the speakers, you were amazing. Alexandra, you started us out so well. I'd like to turn it over to Alexandra next for your closing comments as well, and then probably to Catherine next to do our final comments. Alexandra, would you like to say anything relative to what you heard today? Did this meet your expectation? And what other comments would you like to say in closing?
Oh, Doug, this absolutely exceeded my expectations. It was just such a pleasure to meet everyone. And if I can help in any way, I'll be interning here until the end of August. So feel free to reach out to me as we continue to expand in Japan. And we really just call upon all of your support to help grow our networks in Japan. It's a big goal of ours, and we're getting there slowly but surely. So definitely whatever help we can get, we will take. So yes, that's all from me. And Catherine, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, nothing really much to add, but I will say what a feast of tasty, delectable information, and such an active chat going on there as well, and private messages going through. I've had several connect with me on LinkedIn as we've been going through as well, and that's what it's all about. The Global Chamber is here for you, for us, and we are here for the Global Chamber as well. So I'll just finish on that note. I love the way Doug brings us all together, and Cesar in the background making this all happen. And so thank you so much. And to Alexandra, it's a shame that you are leaving at the end of next month, but you've made your mark, your footprint is here. We've loved you so far and look forward to seeing what happens within the next month that you're still with us, month and a bit. Thank you so much for today.
I absolutely second that. And for our next Japan event, definitely 3 weeks from today, almost to the hour, please join us for a sake celebration where it's just a virtual dining. We're going to be talking about sake and just meeting a variety of folks. So please join us there. We do 600 events a year, so we do a lot, but only 2 this month for Japan. And then as we grow in Japan, we'll certainly be adding more and more. And at some point, we're going to be doing events like we did today as we launched in El Salvador that was all in Spanish, which took me by surprise. I thought there was going to be some English in there, and I was hanging on there for a while to be able to say something and wondering if I could at least say muchas gracias without being too embarrassed. But it seemed to go very well, and we hope to be doing that in many cities in Japan very soon. I'll finish with, I think, what all of you kind of feel about kind of the tasty morsels we've had today. We talked about restaurants in the beginning, but the bits of information and as so important in Japan, the relationships and the people and the connections that we make are just so critically vital, to success long term. And, hey, we're going to have 12 chapters, at least in Japan. I hope it doesn't take 20 years because I'm 20 more years I'm planning to be doing this. I hope it happens a lot sooner than that, but we hopefully would happen sooner if, we're working together and we find ways to add more and more value for you. This reminds me of the time many times in Tokyo or anywhere in Japan where you discover some amazing thing that you've never had before. And for some reason, I was thinking of this little place in the Juban, a couple blocks from where we lived, that had tonkatsu filled with uni. So they made it, and so 2 of my favorite things, tonkatsu pork cutlet and sea urchin, and the sea urchin inserted in. When I discovered that, it was such a magical moment for me. And that's how I feel about today, discovering your expertise and your needs and all of the things that you shared today. Thank you so much. I hope we can do one of these in Tokyo and other parts of Japan very soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Cheers.
Thanks, Doug. Catherine.
Thank you.
Alexandra.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank
Thanks,
you all.
Alexandra. Catherine.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.